أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسوله محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you once again for joining us for another episode, part 2 of last week's episode with Tayyib Marshall. So, brother, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam.
So, trying to recap a little bit, you have now accepted Islam, you've taken your Shahada, you haven't mentioned it to your family for some time because you want to see, you don't want to see the reaction straight away. You want them to see you as the same person, but you've improved and you've become a better person. You've changed your bad habits, and so when they see you, they'll say, "Oh, he's still my son," but maybe what's changed, what's different, and you've now told them that you are Muslim.
Against lots of challenges at that point, causes a bit of a ripple effect, or it did with inside my family. There was people who came closer to me, and there was people that moved further away from me, and that was friends and family. So what I ended up with was people that were really close to me, and lots of people moved away. But saying that, when I took my Shahada, what happened was I gained more and more people, and more great friends and brothers from the masjid. So for the amount of people that left me, 3 came into my life. Yeah. And
these are positive people in your life who are maybe influencing you in a positive way, and you are joining together, all for the good of your own self and for that peace that you were searching for previously in your life. So moving on from there, what was life like in terms of work? What were you doing? What were your ambitions? What were your goals?
Well, I think at the time I was a spray painter in a factory, and it was really heavy work, really hot work. But my aspirations were to put back into the community, to follow a career helping people, most importantly. So I began to take steps towards that while I was in this factory. I attended Mosque really regularly, and I was really fortunate by the people that I met with inside the mosque. I met about a group of 5 or 6 people that really wrapped themselves around me, and they encouraged me and they supported me. And I think with the help and support that I got from them, as well as other people, it really just kind of helped me keep focused on where I wanted to be. And I think that was because of the positive attitude that they brought with inside life.
I guess this again emphasizes the importance of being around good people, being around people who care for you and those who look after you in a way that will benefit you, and I'm sure it will have benefited them as well. And you met them in the mosque, and I think this is very very important point, the fact that the place where you met them was not just a place of worship, but kind of a central hub where you meet people as well. Yeah,
I think I was very fortunate in this sense, because I've gone through a phase now where the people inside my life were a real, previously have been a real negative influence, and I can't blame them for my actions, but you know, the things that they were doing, I really wanted to engage in and follow them desires and the path to self-destruction. And what I found was that I completely turned that around with the friends that I wrapped around me from the mosque, and they offered real friendship, and they offered real brotherhood, support, genuine care, and I'd never had that inside my life with many of the friends I've had inside my life. So to experience it from these guys from the mosque was really touching.
It can sometimes be overwhelming. I mean, I've met people who are new to Islam, and when we show the brotherhood side of Islam, the ukhuwah, where you love your brother for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even though I don't know who you are, I've never met you before, but as soon as we get together, we are already a family. It can sometimes be quite overwhelming for a lot of people and think, wow, I've never experienced this before. But what it does is, I guess, it gives you strength, and it gives you courage and hope to move on.
Yeah, that's exactly what it did. Going into our masjid, I was a stranger going into that masjid, and I was really frightened, and I was met with lots of people inside the masjid that I've never met, and these 5 or 6 people really supported me. And over time, then barriers and the fear and anxieties that I had about going into the masjid and really engaging in there just really began to drop. And the more they dropped, the more people invited themselves into my life, and the more I invited them into my life.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear. So did this help you not just religiously, but outside of religion? I mean, in terms of daily life and work and family and things. Did this help you in any way?
Yeah, I think it really gave me focus, and it really gave me it really encouraged me to work on myself and my own behaviours and the way that I react within life. A lot of the people that I mix with from the masjid would say, you know, this is we do this because our Prophet teaches us to do this, and just them real subtle, real positive behaviours and aspects of humanity. You know, we can't eat without leaving you. We need to feed you as well. Them little things were just really powerful, and these people were living and breathing it, and that always inspired me. Just that humility, the humanness with inside what they were doing.
The fact that Islam is not just something you do once a week or something what you do when you go to a religious building, a mosque or a church or a synagogue or wherever you go, but it's something which is a way of life, isn't it? I mean, that's really fantastic to hear, the fact that the teachings of Islam are things that we want to do, good manners and looking after your guests and sharing your food with other people, but to know that it's linked to your religion, I guess this is where the inspiration is. And for myself, just listening, it's a reminder for me as well, and maybe those who are listening as viewers. But it's absolutely fantastic to hear. Now, you said you wanted to go down a career or down a route which helps other people. Did you achieve this? Are you doing this now?
Yeah. I'm an addiction counsellor now, and I work with inside a rehab, working with people obviously who have serious addictions, and it can be really challenging, it can be really difficult, but I really enjoy it because I'm putting something back into our community, and it's not just normal members of the community. We also receive Muslim brothers, so we're able to help a real wide range of people with inside the rehab.
That's fantastic. So you're actually giving back to the community, maybe people who are going through difficult times that you probably went through previously in your own life, learning from life's experiences and then helping others to benefit their lives as well. Now, linking back to the mosque's role, you mentioned that you go there, you've been there to seek friends, to seek relationships in terms of outside of work as well as inside of work. What more can you say a mosque has to kind of provide for maybe new Muslims or people who are already Muslim but they want some sort of focus and some sort of way to gel? What do you think a mosque should provide and can provide, and maybe experiences of yourself?
Yeah, well, certainly I can tell you what my own mosque offered, which was friendship, brotherhood, a range of things. There's a community there. There's there's study circles. Any help that you want, it's there. You just got to get up and go and experience it. It's hard to know the answer to the question, what could a mosque do to help support when my mosque's already doing that. So it's hard to find the things that they're not doing.
Do you think it's important for people from, for example, Muslim background or people who go to the masjid to get out there more and show their face more in public, or do you think it's down to people outside to be open enough, like you said earlier, open-minded enough to say, okay, let me go and inquire, let me go and see what a mosque is like or what Muslims are like, and how do you get rid of these barriers?
That's a great question. I think you've got to find a balance in what you're trying to attract or promote, and that is how Islam is promoted. It's through attraction, through the way that you behave, and for me that's not always in shouting the loudest to be heard. It's more the subtle actions and the peaceful nature of a person, or a man living next door to a neighbour who's really unruly, but the man next door being really kind and supportive towards that person. So that for me is the way that we carry the message of Islam. So it's about getting a bit of a balance.
Again, it comes down to the way in which you behave towards your neighbours, towards people you see in the street. I mean, Islam teaches us that smiling is charity, smiling is sadaqah. So a simple smile to somebody in the street can mean a whole lot of difference. It won't make too much difference to us, but you never know what kind of impact you'll have on the person on the receiving end. Again, I'm going to have to stop you there just to go on a short break. We hope that you can join us for part 2 of today's episode of My Journey Through Islam with Tayyib Mashal. Thank you very much for listening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you again for joining us for part 2 of today's episode of My Journey Through Islam with Tayyib Mashal. Now, it's been, just listening to your story, it's been a real roller coaster of a ride. I mean, growing up in a family with mother being from a religious-ish background, a Catholic background, father not really practicing. I mean, he's an atheist, growing up, going down a route of a lifestyle which is quite detrimental to yourself, and you keep mentioning towards destruction. And now at this point in your life, you have become a Muslim. You've been a Muslim for quite some time now. You're close to the people in the masjid. You have a good relationship with even if it's a small group of people who are have a positive impact on your life. What kind of advice would you give to people who maybe were like you were, or who are now like you were in the past, where they're sitting on the fence? They want to go towards God, they want to go towards their religion, their faith, but maybe frightened of what's out there and then the impacts it might have on their life. Can you talk about any positives that you've really gained from grabbing hold of the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Yeah, I think for me, Abid, what I would suggest is to don't be afraid to ask questions. Go and ask. And be courageous, and just see what comes as a result of being courageous. Because for me, it was a courageous step. It was a leap of faith and moving forward. And what I experienced is the rewards of being courageous and leaping forward.
So on a kind of a different note, the reality is when you completely change your way of life, you know, you start to become a practicing Muslim, which may mean you change the way you look, the way you dress, the way you act. Were there any negatives? Were there some things which realistically will happen, may happen? You know, if you look a certain way and then suddenly next minute you go and you dress a certain way, or you grow a beard, or whatever it is, are there negatives? And if there are, how do you kind of overcome them and build that strength? Well,
there's been lots of negatives of just even growing my beard, which is obviously a visible sign. Racist comments in the street, which is obviously something I'd never experienced before. And it was quite terrifying to experience that. However, what that gave me was an insight into what other people experience within inside our country every single day of the week. So although I perceived it as a negative, frightening experience, actually there was a gift within inside that for me, which really strengthened my outlook.
I think that's a very good way of looking at it. When somebody shouts abuse at you in the street, for example, your natural reaction will be to feel down and feel depressed and feel, well, why me? Why have somebody said this to me? But the way you've looked at it is, well, other people up and down the country every single day of their, of the year may be experiencing the same thing. So how can I have maybe a positive impact on that person? How can I break down these barriers? And what can we do you feel, to remove these barriers? For example, someone shouts something at you in the street, and then you could either react in a reactive way or a proactive way. What do you think? What kind of reaction would you?
I guess you've got to assess the situation. If it's appropriate, speak to the person and challenge the stereotype. But for me, if it's a group of guys that have been really aggressive or towards you, you've also got a right to keep yourself safe, but and not respond.
Maybe that's the positive in it, not responding back to somebody who said something negative to you. Again, all teachings of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's fantastic. Again, coming back to yourself, what are you doing now? What kind of relationship have you got with regards to your deen, your mosque, and how is it impacting your life?
I have a good relationship with the mosque. I love my imam, even though I don't see him as often as I should do, but I really care about him, and I really care about the people there. I travel between two mosques quite regularly. I travel between Hull and York.
In North Yorkshire,
yeah. And the reason why I do that is because the people within inside York Mosque, as in with my own mosque in Hull, are so welcoming. They're so friendly, and ever since I've been having interactions with these people, they have always held their hand out and said, would you like to join us? Would you like to do this? And they've never left me out. So I've built some really good relationships, and keeping all of them relationships sometimes takes maintenance, which can be tiring, but it's worth it. So yeah, I have a good relationship with the mosque.
And what kind of groups are you experiencing when you go to mosque? Are there kind of groups of people who are from certain backgrounds? Are they all mixed? I mean, you coming from an English background, born and brought up in this country, English and proud. How has it been like when you walk into a mosque and people see you, you know, with your the way you are?
Well, alhamdulillah, when I go to the masjid, it's not all about me. There's many other people that are exactly the same, all different ethnicities, English people as well. So I'm not any special thing, I'm not any different from anybody else, but we all go there for the same reason, which is to enjoy the halaqah and religious study.
That's fantastic. I mean, what can you say about those who maybe were born Muslim, so they already have Islam in their lives, but maybe are not, you know, taking advantage of it as much as they should have? What kind of advice would you give from somebody who maybe didn't have Islam as such in their life? We know we're all born with fitrah, with the natural inclination towards God. But for those who maybe already have Islam, but don't recognize what they have in their hands.
A good question. I meet many people like that inside my life, and I haven't got an answer for it. I've got to be honest.
That's fantastic. Okay, thank you. And also, when you think about Muslims in general, what do you think we need to do differently to get out there and really be in the face of people in a positive way?
I think we all need to just stand together, and we need to attract rather than promote, with a balance. Yeah,
I think there are many ways in which Muslims can be attractive in terms of how we portray ourselves. And again, it comes down to the Prophet ﷺ saying that I came to this earth to perfect the manners of people and the characteristics of people. And I think, what would you say with regards to Islam and how it can guide you and mold you as a person? I mean, again, just linking it to your own personal story, from where you were in your teens, in your late teens, to where you are now. How has Islam really changed that?
Well, again, Abid, I'm not perfect, and I'm a man that needs a lot of work. However, the transformation from where I was 10 years ago to where I am today is vastly different. So I still have some work to go, but certainly my attitudes, my behaviours, my etiquettes have really changed. So yeah.
Again, it comes down to us, the fact that we are human, and we can sometimes use this in a negative way to say, oh, well, we're only human, we'll make mistakes, which is true. But one thing that we learn from verses in the Quran especially, and many people that I've spoken to, which teaches that Allah wants us to be the best human beings, meaning that we try our very best. And I guess Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He looks at us, He looks at the effort that we put in, and it's all about the effort that we put in. And I think that this is something which is quite inspiring to hear from your story, to say from where you were in terms of the being that you were to where you are now. We can look back at our lives and, you know, look regrettably and think, oh, I shouldn't have done this, I should have done this. But ultimately, we know the hadith that says, لَوْ تَفْتَحْ بَابِ الشَّيْطَانِ, that the word if I did this, if I didn't do this, it opens the doors to shaitan. So what kind of advice would you say with regards to looking back at the negatives in your life? And because sometimes I speak to people, it really holds them back.
Yeah, I think it's natural sometimes to look back and regret, but I trust and I have all faith in that every step that I took brought me to this point. So none of it was wasted in life, none of that experience, none of the negative experiences, the people I interacted with, the experiences, none of that's lost. I bring that today with me and I take it forward in life. So it's not about looking back, it's kind of what I can learn from it here and now, and how that can really benefit me and the people that I'm around at any given time.
So again, it comes down to benefiting not just yourself, but those around you. And this is the reason why I'm asking you many questions with regards to how would you advise people, what would you say in this situation, because I can see many people who will see your story as extremely inspiring, to know that we all follow desires and we all follow the things that we want in life, not knowing that actually they are bad for us, they're detrimental, in regards to ourselves. But ultimately there's a bigger goal and there's something that we are searching for. And you've said some really important points today. One of them is about bravery, being brave enough to say, I've got this burning question, I just want to ask it. And your example, and I think you can even elaborate a bit more, to say when you are brave and when you've asked the question, what kind of expectations can you tell us from your experience to say? Yeah,
but sometimes it's usually fear that can hold us back in life, Abid. And it's usually fear of being shamed or ridiculed in life. I know that certainly that's what it was for me. And there's a phrase I quite often remind myself of, is sometimes you've got to dare to be a fool in life in order to get the reward, and sometimes you've got to just step out and push past that fear in order to get the reward. And as a result today, I do feel the reward of many blessings inside my life. And it's through daring to be a fool.
So you look back at that point in time when you were questioning and you said, right, I'm going to be brave, I'm going to dare to ask this question, and now inshallah we hope that we are both on the right path, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless you, to bless me, and to bless each and every one of us who are watching. Amen. We thank you for your time, we thank you for joining us, and we thank you, my dear viewers, for joining us for this episode of My Journey Through Islam. We hope it's been inspirational for you as it has been for myself, and we hope that you can join us for another episode once again, inshallah, in the coming days. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.